what's going on, 242 students? Zach here, and I'm going to be doing the random box challenge that my wife put together. So let's see. We got some Cheerios, we've got some croutons, some mini muffins, a half-eaten bag of Doritos. That gave me a lot. Some tortillas, and oh, would you look at that? An apple. Yeah. So the goal here is I am just gonna make a delicious meal for you guys, and I will personally ship this food to your house. So go ahead, put in the chat if you want me to this to your house, and maybe you can put your address. I don't know, but I guess we'll start out with the tortilla, obviously, and actually let's go with a couple of Doritos on that. We just gotta crush them to make it actually fit, and then put up these mini muffins. You know, we got a great service for you guys today. All right. Mini muffins. On some Cheerios. And then I fold it up like that. And as kind of like a topping, I always like to add a couple of croutons. It really elevates the flavor of the creation that you've just made. And then to just top it off, we'll just put the apple as our side dish. But as you can see, this is a wonderful creation that we've got going on here. So I'm just gonna dig in while you guys, we just continue on with the service. Go.
Suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues that lift one cry. Then from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Were the whole when every creature finds its inmost melody, every human heart its native cry. Oh, then in one enraptured hymn of praise, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Oh, be magnified. Sing it, oh, Christ be magnified. rejoice 'cause you're there too. And I won't be formed by feelings. I'll hold fast to what is true. 'Cause if the cross brings transformation, you can hang me there with you. Because death is just the doorway into resurrected life. And if I join you in your suffering, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it, oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Oh, Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified. Just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Sing it, oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me.
Hey guys, man, I remember the moment when I put my faith in Jesus. I was a junior in high school, and I was brand new to this idea of faith. I had never even owned a Bible before, and so I did not know what you're supposed to do, right? And so I just started trying to dive in and learn more about God. And so I started reading the Bible, which was really cool that I didn't really know. At least I was like taking a first step in that. I started reading the Bible. And I remember I started to read, just open the book of Bible. If you know, it starts in Genesis. And I started reading Genesis and it was fine. And then I started getting to like other books of the Bible called like Leviticus and Numbers. And I started getting really confused and honestly a little discouraged. And so I remember closing up my book and kind of like putting it aside. And I kind of like didn't read my Bible after that for a little bit until I brought this up to a small group leader. And in that moment, my small group leader started to talk to me a little bit more and said that, you know what, the Bible's made up of a bunch of books and you don't have to necessarily start in Genesis. And she encouraged me to start in John, which is the life of Jesus. And so I started reading more about who Jesus was and taking those next steps. And it was just because a small group leader talked to me about it. I remember another time that a friend of mine was telling me about this really cool verse that they had read in the book of Psalms. And I remember looking for this book, right? I like got my Bible, still again, brand new, didn't really know very much about faith or God or anything. I'm a brand new Christian. And so I open up and I'm looking for the book of Psalms, and I can't find it. And I remember getting really frustrated. I was like, I can't find it. And then they're like, well, go to the index and you can find like the book. And I like looked and I was like, that book is not in my Bible. Like, I'm sorry, the book of Psalms is not in there. And I was really confused because I didn't know that Psalms started with a P. I thought it started with an S, so I'm looking for a book that starts with S, and all I could find was like other books, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I remember being so confused until somebody told me, you know, that the book of Psalms starts with a P. It's P.S. I don't know why. Silent P, I guess. But there are things sometimes that we just don't know how to do. We don't know about faith, and that's okay. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know everything about faith to be able to still take next steps. And here we want to help you take next steps. And so that's why in 242 Students, we have small groups, because we believe that this idea of like coaching, that somebody can help you take next steps, coaching you in those things, can happen during small groups, and that's why you have a small group leader who can answer questions and help you when you feel like you're not really sure. And this relationship of that we see all through the Bible. And today we're going to talk about two guys that I believe had this like coaching relationship. This could say that one of them was like a small group leader and one of them was like a student in this, and we see that in their relationship. And so there's two guys. One of them's name's Eli, and the other one's named Samuel. And Eli was a priest. So you could call him a small group leader at this point, but a little bit more. Obviously, he's more like a pastor, things like that. And Samuel eventually is the key word, was a prophet. He was the guy that actually called King David, if you know that story, and like anointed him king. So he was eventually a prophet of God. But before that, guess what? He was just a kid, and he didn't know very much. And so Samuel at this point is actually living with Eli, learning about him and learning more about who God is. And so one day in the middle of the night, Samuel hears somebody calling him. He hears this voice, and it's like, Samuel, Samuel. So he thinks it's Eli. So he goes to Eli and is like, hey, did you call me? Like, what's up? And Eli's, hey, no, go back to bed. Like, go to sleep. So Samuel again hears this voice, and he's like, yeah, hey, I'm here. What's up? And Eli's like, go back to bed. I didn't call you. The third time, Samuel came up and hears this voice and goes to Eli and says, hey, Eli, here I am. Like, you can quit calling me, kind of thing. At that point, Eli realizes that it's not him. It must be God is calling Samuel. That God must be speaking to Samuel. And so at that point, Eli starts to help Samuel in those take next steps and starts to help him to answer God's call. And so this is what it says in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 8. A third time the Lord called Samuel, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, here I am, you called me? Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, go lie down, and if he calls you, say, speak, Lord, for your servant is listening. So Samuel went and laid down the place, and the Lord came and stood there, calling as the other time, Samuel, Samuel. Then Samuel said, speak, for your servant is listening. So Samuel is able to take that next step and to listen and answer to when God was calling him. And it was really because Eli was helping him take those next steps. In the same way, we are needing people in our lives to help us take next steps. And we hope that that is your small group leader in your life. That your small group leader is somebody that you can go to when you have questions, when you have doubts, when you have things that you're wanting to take next steps in. Maybe you're like, I need to take a next step in reading the Bible because I'm not really sure what to do here with it. Maybe you need to take a next step in prayer and talking to God, and you're like, oh, I don't know, maybe do I need to have special words to talk to God? No, but learning more about what those things are, and maybe you just need to talk to your small group leader and actually use them and have them help you. Maybe you could start reading the Bible together with your small group leader so that way you can start to take next steps in that. Whatever it is, I want you to utilize them to help you in those moments. Talk about what are some ways that you can take next steps and how can they help you in that. And so maybe you're like, yeah, you know what, actually I have been using my small group leader and I talk to them all the time and I feel like I have taken next step after next step after next step. And my question is for you at that point, who are you bringing along with you? And who's somebody that you can now coach in there? And maybe it's a younger brother or sister that you can help to take next steps with. Maybe it's a friend who just put their faith in Jesus or just learned to accept God in their life and you want to help them just take a first step. Whatever that is, we should be doing two things with this. Is one is that we should have somebody who is coaching us, and we should bring somebody along when we're in that ready in that spot. And so my question is for you, what's your next step? What do you need to do with this? Do you have somebody that you can go to? The Bible in Ecclesiastes says this, for two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If one falls down, the other can help him up. Pity someone who falls and has no one to help them up. We don't want you to fall. And we know that sometimes in our journey of faith that there's times where we might stumble and fall. We might mess up. And at that point, we hope that you have somebody in your small group leader or somebody else who's coaching you who can help pull you up. And so, again, do you have somebody like that? Do you have a small group leader? If you're not in a small group, man, you need to join a small group because we want you to have somebody who can help you in your journey of faith. Maybe for you, you're like, you know what, actually, it's not really my small group leader. It really is my parents are helping me. And I know I can go to them and talk to them. And that's awesome. And so whether it's your small group leader or parent or somebody else in your life, we want you to have somebody who is helping you take those next steps, who is coaching you in your life, who can help you when things are hard and you might have questions, because it's okay to have questions in your journey of faith. And so, again, what's your next step? Maybe, number one, you just need to utilize your small group leader more and actually have them help you take those next steps. Maybe you need to talk to them about questions you have or doubts you might be having, and using them in those ways. Number two, maybe you're in a spot that you're like, you know what, I feel like I could actually help somebody else. And maybe you need to start to help someone else in your life, whether it's brother or sister or somebody that you know that just accepted Jesus, and start to share what you've learned to somebody else. Whether one of those two are your next steps, I want you to think about that. And then this week, make a plan. So maybe if you're like, you know what, I need to utilize my small group leader more, maybe during small group right after this, you talk to them and just say, hey, you know what, I feel like I want to grow in next steps. Can you help me? What can you teach me? Because you're farther along in your journey than I am. And maybe you need to make a plan. And so during this next song, I want you to think about that and think about what's your next step and how can you make a plan to actually get somebody who can coach you, who can help you this week. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much that we're not meant to do this journey of faith alone, that you put people in our lives to help us. And so, God, I thank you for small group leaders, for people who will help us take those next steps. And so, God, I pray that this week these students would talk to their small group leader, make a plan so that they can actually take those next steps and grow, whether it's with learning more about you, God, or talking to you, or even like a next step in knowing what to say when people talk about you. And so, God, help them, help us. God, thank you that these people are in our lives. We love you so much. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. And oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Let's declare His love, His light pursues us. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so Come on, let's stand firm on this promise. There's no shadow. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Come on, declare. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, till you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Thank you, Jesus.
Hey, thank you for joining us for 242 Students Online. But it doesn't stop there. Go ahead and fill out that next steps card. Go ahead and join an online group to let us know how we can help you take your next step. Don't forget next week to invite a friend to watch 242 Students